Is that you, Lone Wolf? Have you been sent by Starfire to ignite the crystal beacon and warn the king and his men in home guard? In part 1, we joined gamebook author Victoria Hancock as she experienced flight from the dark for the very first time. As Lone Wolf, she fought past Geax and land beasts into the monastery, but our adventure has only begun. It isn't looking good for our Kai brethren, and the only hope for the fate of the Sumlending people is to light the crystal beacon at the top of the Tower of the Sun. But the monastery is in ruins and swarming with the armies of the Dark Lord Zagarna. Finding a way to the crystal beacon isn't going to be easy, but the stakes are the very survival of the Sumlending people. So take a seat, right there on the edge of your chair, and join Vicky and I as we descend back into the chaos of battle to save our people. Now on to part 2 of our playthrough of Flight from the Dark. You're distracted by the many glorious flags that are hanging from the buttressed ceiling, and you collide with a Kai master who is hastening in the opposite direction toward the barricade. It is Swiftow, a master especially gifted in the disciplines of the mind. "Take courage, Silent Wolf," he says. "Duty awaits you outside this day. Conquer your fear and be proud of what you are." Mistakenly, he has assumed that you are fleeing from the battle now raging in the monastery grounds. "Forgive me, Master Swiftow," you reply, "but I'm not afraid to do my duty. I'm under orders from Master Starfire. I am to make my way to the top of the Tower of the Sun and must trigger the crystal beacon." Swiftow scowls. Then you feel a sudden wave of heat passing through your head, and at once you sense that he is using his psychic skills to tell if you are speaking the truth. A smile flickers for a few moments on his tanned, craggy face. "That way, child," he says, pointing to a distant door. "Make haste. Fire the beacon. Do not fail." You hurry towards the arched doorway at the far end of the hall. Beyond it, there's a wide passageway lined with oak cupboards that stretch from floor to ceiling. You recognize this place. It's where spare furniture and equipment for the entrance hall is stored. So if you want to stop, we could search some of the cupboards, or if you wanted to just hurry along, we could do that.
No, yeah, that's a good question, because really, I mean, it's chaos out there. I really do need to be getting on with this. But if there's a cupboard to search, it would be rude to not search it. Let's search the cupboard.
The first 3 cupboards you open contain only chairs and tables and antique pewter plates. But in the 4th, you discover a coil of rope and a dagger. So you can take the backpack item, the weapon, or both.
Can I take the dagger and the rope?
Yep, absolutely.
Definitely then.
You pass through a series of antechambers before arriving at the entrance to the Kai Master's kitchens. The cooks have prepared a banquet feast for Fimarn, and the tables and work surfaces are heaped with dishes of food and jugs of wine. The kitchen's open fires are blazing, and the heat in here feels furnace-like after the frosty chill of the training park. You've taken barely a dozen steps into this parching cookery when there's a sudden explosion and a deluge of shattered glass cascades from the ceiling. The cooks dive for cover beneath the tables as the broken fragments of stained glass rain down in a deadly shower upon their heads. The enemy have landed upon the roof, and the Geax are now smashing the skylights in an attempt to gain entry to the Kai Master's chambers. You grab a silver serving tray and cover your head as you run through the shower of splintered glass towards a heavy oak door on the far side of the kitchen. The tray saves you from serious injury, but one falling shard embeds itself in the knuckles of your left hand, causing you to yelp at the sudden pain. So you're going to lose an endurance point. And it occurs to me that you have healing, and we've gone through a couple of passages, so we probably should add back a couple of points here. So I'm going to house rule and say that you have 20 endurance points at this point, because I haven't been tracking well. So yeah, your healing has helped you here. Okay.
Excellent.
Hurriedly, you reach the door, pull it open, and rush through into the corridor beyond. Briefly, you stop to pull the shard from your hand. Then you tear a narrow strip of cloth from the hem of your Kai cloak and bandage your bleeding hand before continuing. You know this corridor well. It leads toward your dormitory. At the end, there are 2 doors. One leads to a corridor that connects to the dormitory, and the other leads out onto the training park. So do you want to go to the dormitory or to the training park?
I want to go to the dormitory. The training park, I don't want to go back out there again. No. That's not good.
All right.
Yeah, definitely to the dormitory.
You pull open the door and enter the arch-roofed corridor. 5 of your fellow cadets come hurrying towards you, clutching their weapons in readiness to join in the defense of the Kai Master's chambers. You step aside to allow them to pass, and as they go by, you caution them about the attack now taking place above the Kai Master's kitchens. They thank you for the warning and raise the hoods of their cloaks as they press on along the way you have just come. The arched corridor leads to a junction where another passageway leads off towards the Kai Armory. Directly ahead of you is the open door to your dormitory. So do you want to continue to your dormitory or turn left and follow the passage towards the Kai Armory?
I'm going to go for my gut instinct, but I'm still thinking it's going to be wrong. But let's go to the armory. It's like, why wouldn't you go and get more weapons? Yeah.
You're approaching a right turn in the corridor when you hear the muffled sounds of combat coming from somewhere in the middle distance. You draw your weapon and peer around the corner, cautious and fearful of what awaits you beyond. At the far end of the passageway, close to the armory door, you see a fellow initiate and friend of yours called Snow Falcon. The wall torches have all been extinguished and the passageway is dark, but you know without a shred of doubt that it is your friend. His white hair and snowy albino skin glow dimly in the weak rays of light that are coming through the ragged frame of the passageway's shattered window. Snow Falcon is grappling with a GIAC assault trooper. The bodies of 2 other GIACs lie nearby, slain by your brave young friend. The GIAC strikes Snow Falcon a glancing blow to the head with the hilt of his sword. As he falls backwards, you see blood flowing from his forehead and running into his eyes. Snow Falcon is suddenly blinded. He reels away, and when his back hits the armory door, the GIAC snickers evilly. It raises its sword and gets ready to deliver your friend a killing blow. You do not have an axe, which is what it's asking for here. So I'm going to go forward with the knowledge that you don't have an axe. You unsheathe your weapon and charge headlong down the passageway, screaming as loudly as you can. The sudden commotion makes the GIAC spin around. This creature can see clearly in the dark, and when it sees you charging towards it, yelling like a madman, it draws back its sword and gets ready to block your first attacking blow. All right, we're in combat again. This one has a endurance of 12 and a combat skill of 13. So again, we've got a combat ratio of 5. And your endurance points are 20. All right. So you're running up behind it and yelling like a madman, and we get a pretty good roll.
And what I was planning to do here was leap onto its back, reach around and stick my thumbs into its eyes so that it was blinded too, as a sort of, to take my revenge for Snow Falcon. I thought that was quite a touching,
Very
tribute. Good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did I win?
All right, we've rolled. Let's see how to go. Exactly perfect, actually. You take no damage and do exactly 12 damage, which is what the endurance this enemy has. So you have managed to perfectly execute this. So you've blinded the GIAC and then finished it off with your sword.
Yeah.
So you step over the GIAC's lifeless body and approach your wounded friend, anxious that he may be seriously injured. Fortunately, the wound appears worse than it really is, and Snow Falcon is soon able to stem the bleeding by the use of his own Kai healing skill. Speaking of which, this is currently not combat, so I'm going to increase your endurance up to 21.
Thank you.
Go. Okay. You were always the best fighter in class, he says with a grin. as carefully you wipe the blood from his eyes with the edge of your Kai cloak. "It's a good job for you that I had to practice this morning," you retort. "Aye, it is," he replies. "Thank you, my friend. You saved my life. I hope one day I will be able to return the favor. But now I must join in the fray. The Jiaks are everywhere. I fear the monastery shall be overwhelmed. Come join me. We shall fight side by side like true Kai." You tell Snow Falcon that you have an important order to carry out for Master Starfire, but you will seek him out once the task is done. "Kai be with you, Silent Wolf," he calls out as he hurries away to join in the battle. "May Kai be with us all today," you call back. Then you give a salute and watch your brave friend until he disappears from view around the distant corner. With an ever-growing sense of dread, you turn back towards the armory door, push it open, and enter. For some reason, this feels ominous.
It does.
But we'll see.
Yeah, it's not feeling good. But the Jiaks were outside the door, so maybe that's a good sign that they hadn't actually entered yet.
Most of the weapons that are usually stored in the racks of the Kai armory have already been taken by your brethren. Now only a few remain: dagger, warhammer, spear, sword, quarterstaff, and a Kai shield. The Kai shield is a special item adorned with red and gold Kai sun face. It adds +2 combat skill when used in combat with any weapon. So if you wish to take one or more of those, you can do that.
What's the second one down?
So you can only carry 2 weapons at a time, but there's a warhammer, a spear, and a quarterstaff.
We'll lose the dagger.
Okay.
We'll take what we can get our hands on, really. And if that's going to benefit me, I'll carry that. Any
Perfect.
freebies, basically.
All right.
I'll take them all.
Yeah. You leave the armory by a door which leads to the ground level of one of the monastery's Gatehouse towers. Your hope is that the Barbican and its fortified gallery, which protects the main gate, are both still secure. If they are, you will be able to use the gallery to reach the second Gatehouse tower. Your intention is to enter the adjoining stables from the second tower and hopefully gain access to the Tower of the Sun by that way. You know there is a stone portal in the north wall of the stables. It's used by your Kai Masters and also by the Grand Master Braveblade himself when they are in need of a horse for their travels afar. A wide stone stair spirals up towards the top of the first tower. As you ascend it, the concussive boom of explosions grows steadily louder, and the steps shudder alarmingly beneath your feet. When you finally reach the top of the spiral stair, you discover that the tower's lookout chamber is filled with smoke. The lifeless body of a Barbican guard lies crumpled on the stone floor, with a black-shafted arrow embedded in the top of his skull. He has fallen beside a ladder which gives access to a trapdoor in the tower roof. Through the acrid smoke, you can see a dark shape moving at the top of the ladder. The smoke stings your eyes, making it difficult to see clearly, but your senses tell you at once it's a Jiak assault trooper. This deadly foe has been landed on the roof, and it has managed to fight its way into the tower through the narrow trapdoor. As he descends, you sense that he is not alone. He's being hurried down the ladder by several others. Away to your right, there's an archway which leads to the fortified gallery which spans the main gate. At the end of this suspended passageway is the door to the second tower. So you could kick the base of the ladder to make it topple, or you could escape from the smoke and the approaching Jiaks by quickly entering the fortified gallery.
Yes. Yeah, this is a good one. I say bring it on. Bring it on. Let's kick the ladder, because that's not going to kill it. So bring it on. It'll fall down, and then I can attack. Yeah.
All right. You raise your leg and aim a heavy kick at the base of the ladder with the sole of your boot. The gray wood splinters in the ladder twist violently to one side. Above, the Jiaks shriek with shock as suddenly they lose their grip and come tumbling through the smoky air to land with a bone-breaking thud on this hard stone floor. 2 have been killed instantly by the crushing fall, and the third is left semi-unconscious and bleeding. Before it can recover, you deliver a swift killing blow to the base of its leathery gray neck. An arrow impacts and splinters to matchwood on the ground by your feet. Glancing upward, through the smoke, you catch the glimpse of a yellow-clad Giac archer, framed in the open trapdoor high above. It curses you and reaches to its quiver for a second arrow, but before it can take aim again, you make your escape into the gallery of the Barbican.
Excellent.
So the gallery floor shudders and broken plaster cascades from its ceiling as you run through this battered, dust-choked passageway towards the second gatehouse tower. Quickly, you push open the tower door and witness a scene that makes you cry out with shock and anger. A gaping hole has been torn from the tower wall. The blast of the explosion, which made the hole, has also killed the 3 Kai sentinels who were posted here and allowed some of the enemy to gain entry unopposed. 2 Giacs are crouching over the corpses of your dead comrades, gleefully mutilating their bodies with long serrated knives. Fired by sudden rage and revulsion, you unsheathe your weapon and attack these ghoulish creatures before they could turn their cruel blades on you. Due to the speed and ferocity of your attack, you may increase your combat skill by 2 points for the duration of this fight. Okay, so what's good about this is so they have 15 endurance. That's not the good part. You have 21 endurance. I think I'm doing a really poor job of bookkeeping for that. But you've got a combat skill of 18, plus you've got the Kai shield, which is going to add 2 combat skill, and your swift and ferocious, which adds another 2. So you're actually at 22 combat skill, minus their combat skill of 14, which is, what is that, 6, 7, 8 combat ratio? Is that right? Did I do my math? 22 minus, yeah, I think that's right. So 8. Math. Cool.
And
so
there's 2 of them, yes?
I believe, yes. So it says, yes, 2. Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right, so how do you approach
just
this?
plotting the next move, Brian. Kind of wishing I hadn't got rid of the dagger now. Obviously, there's a lot of screaming going on because that's a tactic that works. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get the Warhammer and I'm going to go for between their heads. So I'm between them. And so it's going to like side of one head, then to the next, and do that basically. So they're stunned, brain
almost
damage. That's what I'm going for.
Nice. Okay. All right. It is pretty effective because you managed to do 12 damage and only take 1 damage here. So they are down to 3. They are very much injured here. And you are barely winded by this exchange. But there will be a second round to this. I think what happens now is that, they're very aware of you, and they've turned on you, and they've taken their weapon off of the focus of mutilating your poor friends.
There's more to our adventure in this episode, so stay tuned. But first, a sincere request for your support. I believe that gamebooks need more coverage like this, and that indie gamebook authors like Vicky deserve to be highlighted. But I'll be honest, while creating content like this has been undeniably fun, it's also a lot of work. So I need your help. Don't worry, you can put your wallet away. All I need is for you to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. Without that kind of engagement defeat the YouTube algorithm deities, no one else will ever see this video. So go ahead and do that now. I'll take a quick grateful breath while you do. Thanks. And of course, if you do want to contribute financially, check out patreon.com/instadeath, where a few generous individuals are helping me cover my costs to make this content. Now, back to our adventure.
They've turned on you, and they've taken their weapon off of the focus of mutilating your poor friends, and instead aim to mutilate you. And what do you do?
Well, I'm just going to deliver the coup de grace here, and I'm just going to get my short sword out, swift slice, both heads off in one. I feel confident about this.
And it goes It goes perfectly. So their heads, I think, just thunk
Roll off.
right to the
Roll
ground.
off.
Nice. Off with their heads. Wrong story, I guess, but... All right. Through the hole in the tower wall, you observe another wave of Kran and land beasts approaching from the west. You catch only fleeting glimpses of this third wave through the billowing clouds of smoke, which are much thicker than before. All of the small battlement fires have now connected, and the monastery's entire northwest quarter is fiercely ablaze. Your stomach churns at the sight of this terrible destruction, but your determination to complete the task that Starfire has set you does not falter. With a growing sense of dread, you descend the tower's staircase and pass along a passage which connects the tower to the Kai stables. The banded oak door to the stables is locked. The surface is giving off wisps of smoke, and the iron drawboat is hot to the touch as you pull it back. Quickly, you raise the hood of your cloak and wrap it closely around you, and then you take a deep breath and pull open the door. Fire is eating through the middle of the stable roof, and burning tiles and timbers are falling from above. This building is partitioned into several stalls for the horses, but fortunately, they seem to have escaped the blaze. You see that the main doors which lead to the training park are wide open. Suddenly, you hear the neighing of two frightened horses that are still trapped in their stalls at the far end of the stables. Bravely, you make your way through the flaming debris and release the first horse from its stall. As you're approaching the stall occupied by the second horse, your heart sinks when you see that the portal which leads to the Tower of the Sun is blocked by a tangle of blazing timbers and shattered roof tiles. Entry by this way is now impossible. Through the gaping hole in the stable roof, you can see the top of the tower glooming above the smoke and flames. A desperate fight is taking place up there, around the base of its crystal spire. One last remaining Kai sentinel is bravely defending the beacon from attack by a Jiak assault squad that has been landed from the air by Kran. Fearful that this single brave Kai Lord cannot hold the enemy at bay for very much longer, you resolve to find another route into the tower, with its main door now closed and sealed. There is but one other way to gain entry to the tower from inside the monastery grounds, via the Kai Chapel in the northeast quarter. However, in order to reach the chapel, you'll have to cross the burning battlefield that once was the monastery's training park and grounds. You pull open the stall and leap onto the frightened horse's back, as immediately it bolts for the open doors. With grim determination, you hang on to the horse by its mane and attempt to steer it safely through the combat and the carnage that await you outside. The enemy is far greater in number than before, and only a handful of Kai are now fighting them out in the open. The unexpected appearance of a single rider confuses the Jiaks that you encounter as you race across the body-strewn ground toward the distant chapel. Those who attempt to block you are trampled swiftly under your horse's hooves before they are able to strike. The speed and audacity of your actions carries you safely across the training park and to within a few dozen yards of the chapel door, to where a group of determined Kai are defending the entrance. You're getting ready to dismount and run the final few yards to the doorway when an enemy soldier clad fully in black steel armor takes notice of your actions and raises his crossbow. He is Drakkar, one of the brutal species of humanoid warriors in service of Dark Lord Zagarna's army, who have arrived with the third wave. With a cool and ruthless efficiency, this battle-hardened soldier tracks your movements, takes careful aim, then slowly squeezes the trigger of his heavy crossbow. You do not possess Mind Blast, and you do not possess Mind Over Matter, or do you actually? Hang on.
Oh, I do, yeah.
I think you do.
I've got Mind Over Matter.
Perfect. Okay. So do you wish to use it?
Oh, yes, please. This is not sounding good. I need all the help I can get.
All right. Your psychic senses have been heightened and sharpened by the many deadly dangers that surround you. Instinctively, your eyes are drawn to the distant Drakkar, who is about to fire his crossbow, and you sense that he is the greatest threat of them all at this moment in time. Hurriedly, you focus on his weapon and direct a wave of psychic energy towards it. The wave you release is weak and too quickly prepared. Yet, it is just enough to cause the crossbow to move a little in his gauntleted hands. He fires, and the steel bolt comes whistling across the battlefield towards you, to pass by your head by barely a hand's breadth.
Good choice.
You steer your horse toward the door of the Kai Chapel, to where a dozen or more Jiaks are trying to force their way through the partially shattered door. A pair of young Kai initiates are defending the entrance, stabbing and slicing at the attackers with their swords as they try to climb through the door's ragged V-shaped hole. Your brave horse carries you directly into this tight-knit group of attackers, scattering their rear ranks and crushing those in the center with his steel-shod hooves. He rears up and uses his forelegs like twin hammers, raining a rapid series of blows upon their heads that batters them senseless. You unsheathe your weapon and slide from its back. As your feet touch the black, blood-soaked ground, you are set upon by a handful of snarling, vengeful Jiaks. You slay 2 of their number and break the jaw of a third with a swift, backhanded slash. "Get inside, Silent Wolf!" comes a cry from the chapel. It's the voice of Rain Dove, a friend and fellow initiate. Heeding her cry, you dive headlong through the narrow gap in the chapel door and somersault to a halt on the stone floor beyond. Rain Dove and her brave companion Steel Sky block the gap as soon as you are safely through, using one of the chapel's heavy wooden pews. The Jiaks pound at the hastily barricaded door, but the portal remains secure, at least for now. Inside the chapel, there are less than a dozen Kai who have sought sanctuary here from the battle. All of them are bloodied and torn from the fight. 2 young Kai acolytes, both badly wounded themselves, are trying to comfort a Kai journeyman whose left hand has been severed at the wrist. They are using their healing skills in unison in an attempt to stop the bleeding. It touches you deeply to see these young Kai are selfishly forsaking their own needs in order to help their wounded elder. "You fought well, Silent Wolf," says Steel Sky. "We saw you ride out from the stables. I didn't think you'd make it across the training park alive." "I was never in any doubt," retorts Rain Dove. "I knew you'd survive." Hurriedly, you tell your friends of the urgent task that you must fulfill for Kai Master Starfire. They too know of the portal, which leads from the sacristy of this chapel to the lower hall of the Tower of the Sun. Rain Dove urges you to investigate it at once. The 2 of you hurry towards the altar positioned at the north end of the prayer hall. The gold surface of the altar is embellished with the sun symbols of the god Kai and the moon symbols of the goddess Ishir. You offer up a silent prayer to them to preserve you and your fellow Kai this day as you pass around the altar and enter the small sacristy chamber beyond. Here is where the holy robes and the blessed artifacts of the Kai order are kept. Positioned beyond the west wall of the sacristy is a large stone tomb, the last resting place of Iron Pearl, a former Kai Grand Master. Held by brackets on the top of this tomb is a replica of the Grand Master's famous Iron Pearl broadsword. You may unhook the weapon from its brackets and use it if you wish.
Definitely, please. Do I have to drop some of my other weapons?
Yeah, you'll have to choose whether to drop Starfire's sword or the Warhammer if you take it.
I'll swap sword for sword then.
All right, so this is the Grandmaster's famous Iron Pearl broadsword. Okay, there we go. Okay, Rain Dove pulls aside a large, heavy gold velvet curtain, which hangs from a stout wooden rail on the wall beside the tomb. Behind this curtain is a stone door which leads to the lower tower of the Tower of the Sun. There's no handle to this heavy door, only 3 cylindrical tumblers, which are inscribed with numerals. In order to open the portal, you must align the 3 tumblers so that the correct 3-digit code appears in sequence on their facings. Oh man. This is wild. Okay. The first, it's a memory test. The first, and I'll pull this up in here as well. Okay. The first is equal to the number of Jiaks you found mutilating corpses of slain Kai guards in the second Gatehouse tower. The second is equal to the number of horses you discovered trapped in the burning stables. And the third is equal to the number of GX who offered to surrender to you during the battle in the training park. If you're able to answer these 3 questions, then we can try to turn to that section. Otherwise, we'll have to go to another section.
Right. I definitely know the middle number's 2, and I'm going to guess that it's 220. Because none of them will surrender.
220. I want to track where we are, and I'm also going to grant you another endurance point here, because we've at least, actually, I'm going to give you 2, because I think we've at least done 2. Okay, we're going to try 220 and see what happens. Oh my gosh.
Did I get it?
You hear a dull, stony click when you rotate the 3rd tumbler into position. Then silently, the heavy portal swings open to reveal a torchlit passageway. So you did get it. Good job.
Thank you.
Rain Dove bids you good luck. You pause to shake her hand and return her sentiment before setting off along the passageway. So I think this is probably a good pausing point. Let me check one
I
thing
like
real
that
quick.
as a puzzle. I'm thinking I could steal that for one of mine. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I would have solved that puzzle myself, but with a keen mind and a little luck, Vicky was able to access the secret tunnels under the training grounds from the chapel to the Tower of the Sun. And get this. Everything we've covered so far has been new content added for the definitive edition of Flight from the Dark. So if you haven't acquired the definitive editions of the Lone Wolf books, I'm sure that Home Card Press would appreciate it if you went to magnumin.com to pick them up. I'm so happy that Vicky has been able to join us to be our lone wolf for this playthrough adventure. She really has a knack for blood and gore and battle. And if you think her improvised skills are amazing, then you really should check out her gamebook work. She's most of the way through a hexalogy. Anyway, she's making 6 books in an amazing series. You can go find those at victoriahancocks.com. We've barely even started. I don't know what I've gotten myself into. So go subscribe so that you don't miss anything, and share this video on your social media with other gamebook fans. I'll see you in part 3.